We are so excited to continue our presentation that we started in April with some of the featured farmers in the new book, The Flower Farmers, which I meant to have handy, but here it is. The Flower Farmers book is out on Tuesday, May 6th. So this is still a preview, and I'm really excited to host two of our featured flower farmers. So I will just comment that we are meeting on May 2nd because Mother's Day is coming up. I know everybody's busy, so no worries if you miss this. We're going to record it and post it next week. And in the meantime, I'm going to have a little chat with my co-author, Robin Ovney. And Robin, hello, it's so good to see you.
Good morning. It's really nice to see you too.
How are you feeling with the publication of our book coming up in just a few days?
Well, I think it's been a journey and a great one, and I'm excited. How about you?
I am. It's so surreal because it's like we've been working on this for so long, almost 2 years, that somehow it doesn't feel real. We're going to start celebrating this Sunday a little early at the Ultimate Cutting Garden Plant Sale on Sunday, May 4th, which is going to be held at the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market. And Robin and I are going to sneak in with copies of the book and do early bird sales and sign copies for our Seattle community.
And we're excited, and we've got a bunch of different talks planned on in the Seattle area and also in the New York, Philadelphia, Washington area. So check Deborah's schedule on Slow Flowers.
But before we get started, Robin, I would love to have you just talk about the photography approach to curating almost 300 photos in this book. I mean, how did you do that?
300 photos, 50 photographers, but it was really with the help of each of the farmers, two of whom are on here today, that we'll be talking with. Deborah, our philosophy has always been that we're telling a story with the photos as well as with the print and with your story. And I was with an embarrassment of riches to be able to tell the story of these flower farmers. And very grateful for that. But we are so proud of the visuals in this book and all the photographers who contributed, like I said, over 50. And it was a little crazy at times. The spreadsheet, was helpful sometimes. Um, but what was wonderful was I got to do my favorite thing, which is to look at thousands of photos and just pick out really ones that I thought told the story and then hand them over to our wonderful book designer through Abrams. And we were in sync, so that's always nice. And we'll talk a little bit with Abby about how I fell in love with her dogs. And Julie with her, little, well, it's changed now, and she'll tell you about that, but just her little spot of heaven there, and her beautiful flowers, and her wonderful, wonderful floral designs and floral couture. So it was a real joy.
Yeah, let's go ahead and introduce Abby Matson of Diddle and Zen. And Abby, you're representing most of New England by being in the book because somehow, being in Vermont, you are probably the furthest northeast special feature in the Flower Farmers. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Can we go ahead and put your pages from the book up first, and then we can talk about that. And then Robin may have some comments too. Here's the cover, and this is the first spread. Robin, why don't you just talk about how you wanted? I mean, obviously you didn't design the layout. Emily Wardell did, and she's a fabulous designer, but you had to kind of guide in your selections of images.
Well, yeah, this was my favorite of you, Abby, to open with, and they had it somewhere else.
Oh, wow.
Emily had it somewhere else, and we talked about it, and she switched it out. I just thought this really captured your life. Now, can you name who the photographer was on this one? Because you had a few photographers, so
Yes.
please feel
Yeah.
free to share them all. But
Yes, this was Elizabeth Waller, and it's most of her photos that are featured in our feature of the book.
yeah.
She was actually one of the first people that she did my first website, and she's also a photographer, and we became friends. So she would often just be at the farm even when I wasn't paying her to be a photographer, and she was very generous sharing those. But this particular photo shoot was a paid, it was one of our first shoots that we did when we were working on the first website.
Yeah.
She's very talented.
Well, very beautiful and great colors too. Great use of the
The Red Barn.
yeah, well, just her colors are very saturated, which is really nice. Um,
Yes.
but and also just capturing what this was, I believe, at a pit, one of your after picks, right, where people
Yep.
come and do a you pick it. Was it
Yep.
also tied to the dinner, or was it just
Yes. Yeah. So the one of the images with me holding the big cheese platter, that spread, is
oh,
part of our
yeah.
farm tour experience. So we try to do something that's a little bit more elevated where, we sell a limited number of tickets. We usually cap it at 20. We set up a table on the lawn. The photo opposite here is actually a bridal shower, so it's a little bit more elaborate than our farm tours, but we use that same table, the same chairs. We use the porch, and we provide charcuterie. We surprise them with a little bit of wine. We don't advertise that part because we're probably kind of cheating. And so like wine and sparkling water. So they go out, they get a tour, they get set free with their snips and their buckets, and then they come back. We put everything in the cooler to hydrate, and then they get to sit and enjoy some light bites and some beverages.
Yeah.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
it.
And
Love
I
it.
have to say, the farmhouse is like, isn't that just like everybody's dream of the quintessential farmhouse? I mean,
It totally
did
is.
you find this online? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was actually the first house I think that popped up when I added Vermont to our search because we were looking at lots of states. And I literally said to my husband, I'm like, this seems like it's too good to be true. I mean, and we put all our eggs in that basket, came, saw it, made an offer, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Serendipity, I think
It,
we call that. Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
I can't wait to visit. I love it.
Yes.
Um, we did have a lot of high tunnels in the pages of the flower farmers, but they just, I don't know, they photograph so well.
They do.
We just kept adding more, Rob, and I think they show basically how people do season extension and boost their production by having some structures on their property.
Yeah.
I would agree. And at one point, though, we did say stop. We said we can't put any more high tunnels in. This one got in because it's actually gorgeous because of the sky and
The light.
and the light and all of that.
Yep. Yep.
Yes. And that photographer is actually a different photographer. That's
Right.
Lisa Hassel Arms, and she is a professional photographer who she just recently won an award in like Spain or Portugal somewhere. I should know, but she happened to come to one of my farm tours. I didn't know who she was at the time. She came with a group, and then while she was there, she asked if I minded if she took photos. I was like, no. So then after following, she sent me a bunch of beautiful images and offered them up. So
Wow.
Wow.
I was really
Just
Well,
lucky.
thank you. They
That's
were wonderful.
lovely.
They're
Just
Yeah.
as a
wonderful.
thank you then for
Yeah. Yep.
being so nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure Julie's going to have stories like that too, because Julie has a lot of photographer friends. I think that makes
And was a photographer
Yeah.
herself at one point.
And then we kind of pivot to a little bit of the story of how you came to retail. And I think maybe this is a good starting point for Abby to talk a little bit about how this evolved from this two images we see on the left, which are your on-farm stand, to your main street brick and mortar flower shop, which you have retail flower shop that you have now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember what year we put in the little shed that you see in the photo here. It was probably like our third season officially. We had dabbled in doing, a lot more wholesale and then realized that wasn't the right scale for us. So we needed to do more retail. And so it just made sense to add an ability for people to just purchase at any time through a self-serve option. And it's very common in Vermont to have that kind of a platform. And we're able to work on the honor system, which is amazing. We've not had any issues with that. So we set it up and we actually launched it that first year, our grand opening for Mother's Day weekend. And it was a big success. It automatically just generated revenue and people were very excited about it. We tried to make it, cute and charming inside, and it kind of became a destination. And so that was the beginning. And then the first year that we were actually here, before we were ready to even consider retail, we met the local floral shop owner at a holiday party. And she had expressed interest in retiring somewhat soon and wanted to know if that was something we would consider. At the time, it was just way too early, but I kind of put it away in the back of my mind because I ultimately always wanted to have a retail storefront, partially because I love home goods and gifts and all the other things that go with that. So my idea, the perfect vision for me, was to have the flowers and then add all of this other beautiful retail and sort of have that dream that I'd always had. But I knew my husband was nowhere near ready for that. So the years went by, and then I finally, it would have been in, let's see, we bought their shop in 20, what was it? 20, what's 20? We're in 25, 24, 23. October 23 is when we closed. So we kind of started the conversation with them in January or at the beginning of 23. And it just worked out. It was the right timing. I knew that they were still really desperate to sell to someone. They didn't want to just close down the flower shop. It's a small community, so it's an institution in communities like this still. It's very important, and it was important to them to have that continue. So it just was the right timing. So we bought their business in October of 23 and just jumped right in, went straight into the holidays. We were in a small space on Main Street. It was kind of on a corner, and it was underneath another retail store. So it was a little basement space. It had some charm in that it had like the stone walls because of the stone foundation. So it kind of had the feel of our farmhouse, but it was just very limited on space. It worked great for flowers. That's mainly what their business was. They only really sold like taper candles and a little bit of, fragrancy stuff, not a lot. I mean, very little retail. So we gradually added retail that first year, but the dream was always to get above ground, get a bigger space and expand the retail. We had no idea where that space was going to be. We'd considered another spot that was available, but it was a little bit more outside of town and just was a bit more of a risk with, getting the right foot traffic. So once again, serendipity struck. And that December, I saw a post on Instagram that the art gallery, which was in literally my favorite spot on Main Street, the space that you see in this photo with the giant windows, was closing their gallery and the space was going to be available. So at that point, I was kind of freaking out because we were in a 1-year lease with our spot and we'd only been there a couple months. So I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know what the price, but I figured out who the owner was, reached out to them, and they had a lot of interest for the space, but they really just wanted us to have it. And so they basically didn't let me say no at some point, and that's how it worked out. She said, "We will make it work for you. You can start moving in and getting the space ready and not even pay rent until May 1st. I mean, they made it happen for us. So, and our other landlord, there was somebody that wanted that spot, and so he was willing to let us out. So it was amazing.
I love it. It is serendipity. And, you talked about, the previous flower shop owners not wanting to sell because they knew it was such an essential part of the community. It's Vergennes is the name of the town, right?
Vergennes.
Okay, Vergennes. And what is the population of Vergennes?
I want to say it's around like 2,800, which doesn't sound very big, but Vermont is spread out. So we're kind of in between Middlebury, which is a college town that's much bigger. And then we have like Shelburne, Charlotte, and then South Burlington. So people really do commute to places to shop even and go to restaurants. It's kind of the nature of Vermont.
So even though now you have this new space and you're going to give us a tour of it, so maybe I should stop sharing the PowerPoint. I guess I want to comment that like you're part of a community in that every human occasion needs flowers. And so you're kind of witnessing lives of all of your neighbors and fellow residents.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely a very personal connection, and being in a small community, it can be funny at times, like it's almost like a beauty salon, if somebody's in the doghouse or if somebody's sick or injured or passed away, or we could probably write a soap opera, based on the knowledge.
I love it. I love it. So the transition to a larger space, I know you're going to show us a little tour, but can you just talk about how you're juggling a flower farm, which is, I don't know how many minutes away, and then a completely standalone separate business. It's like, and actually, and then you're doing events and weddings. So, you have multiple channels of revenue, but also how are you stretched so thin?
Yes, that is the piece of the puzzle that I haven't quite solved yet. It's still very, very busy at times, very chaotic. So we don't have a lot of free time for sure. My husband and I, we don't travel much these days, but it basically is like having three separate businesses. I tell people, the farm is one business as far as like managing people and labor and cost and all of that. And then the weddings kind of are almost their own business. And then the storefront. Obviously my team members, my employees help out with all that stuff. They're amazing and they fill in the gaps wherever they're willing to do whatever. I have a store manager. She's here 5 days a week. So she's kind of like, she keeps us all organized and together. And then I have another part-time person who, when her kids are in school, she's here 2 days a week. And then in the summer, she switches back to just being available for weddings and kind of when it fits her schedule. And then we have a college student who's actually the daughter of my manager, who comes and fills Megan's space in the summer. And we usually increase our hours in the summer too, because we have a bit of a seasonal community with a resort nearby in the lake. So she also, picks up extra hours. We stay open later and we add Sundays in the summertime. So I'm lucky to have such great people working for me. Honestly, if I didn't have that, it would be about 1,000 times harder. They're just trustworthy, reliable, like family. So that makes a huge difference. I have a part-time farm worker. She's actually going to be cutting her hours back a little bit more this year because she's in her 60s. She's technically retired, but she works like she's in her 20s.
That just like me, I'm the same way.
Yeah, right? I mean, why
No,
slow down?
I don't think.
Me too.
I think farming would kill me.
I know. I was just planting containers and I had to take a day.
Take a day off. So the biggest thing that we've been trying to do is change the way that we farm. We are focusing a lot more on perennials. We've scaled back the variety of annuals that we grow. We're keeping it really simple with that stuff. I do more plug buying now versus starting things from seed. That allows me to push back how early I have to start things, like Lysianthus. I don't want to be heating a space in January to make those work for our season. So that's one way we've been able to save. And we're surrounded by a couple of other amazing flower farms. So I don't really have to grow everything. I'm going to grow the easy things that are going to help with my margins and then get other goodies from them and help fill in. And I love supporting those farms too. So that's been that's been our biggest kind of transition, to try to give ourselves a little bit more time. And then weddings, we've actually just officially decided, Megan and I had a big debate the other day, because the weddings get very stressful for me. I am an overachiever and I don't like feeling pulled in multiple directions. And I always want to make sure I can give 100% focus to things. And it can be hard with the storefront and the wedding. So I've always felt a little conflicted. And I turn into a crazy person during wedding season because it's just so much. And so we've decided that for 2026, because we've started getting inquiries, we are not going to accept any full service weddings.
Wow.
We're going to take a break from it. I still love serving our community, which the local weddings that we do are usually the smaller a la carte and DIY. The resort weddings are usually the full service weddings. And so I feel like it's more essential to focus on our community and serve them and find ways to serve them better in their price ranges and their budgets. It's more fulfilling and it's just more meaningful and it's more manageable. So those are all great things. So we're going to see how that goes. And I think we're going to try to, my idea is to do the a la carte and the DIY, but create some videos for those DIY brides that they can snag off of our website. They give them tips and tricks, maybe even links to like great supplies that they can buy. And then we've talked about making our barn possibly available as a workspace too, as maybe an add-on. And we have a cooler out there, so they could store their stuff out there overnight. They could turn it into a fun family event. And so kind of reinvent that and make that our feature offering and get away from the stuff that just makes me a lunatic. So.
So creative. And so that you're talking about 26. So sounds like you do have some weddings booked for 2025.
Yeah. And we're not overbooked this year, which is good. And almost all of our full service weddings are at Basin Harbor, which is the resort that's like 4 miles from my house. So it's very manageable. It's hard because like we're literally getting ready and planning for the weddings that we're doing this year. And I'm getting the inquiries for 26. And so it just starts kind of coming in on me. And I just start feeling the overwhelm. So,
well, if you were the Main Street flower shop without a farm, then you'd really want those resort weddings. That would be a huge source of revenue for you. But I can see where, sometimes this idea of stepping back and scaling down to fit your particular lifestyle is the hardest thing to do. And congratulations, Abby, for making that decision. I think Julie's going to talk a little bit about making decisions similarly, like what works for you, your family, and your business.
And what makes you happy? You know, if you're going to take on all the risk and stress of being a business owner, you should at least enjoy it, you know, and not feel pressured to make it something that isn't what you want to do. So I
I
think
love
that
it.
I'll have so much more time to focus energy on other things that do make us exciting. And I don't think we'll miss the revenue. I think we'll make it up with other passion projects.
Are
So
you still going to do the sunset tours? Because
we,
those just are so charming.
yes, we are. We paused those this year because we needed a break from that. And now I think cutting out the weddings, it'll be a thing that we can bring back and feature because people do ask about them. They miss them. They were wonderful, but they were one of those things that I fit in those spaces where we didn't have weddings. And so every weekend was something.
Uh,
That was hard. It was hard to get back in that mode. Like, oh, we don't have a wedding this weekend. We can rest. But then it's like, oh, we have a farm tour. Let's make sure the farm looks great and catch up on all the weeding and drag out all this stuff. You know, I always had a great time once I got into the moment, but some of the time it was hard to get the energy up to get excited about it.
mm.
So
I love it. Well, before everybody joined, Abby and I did a practice to see if she could walk around with her laptop and give us a tour of the shop. So tell us where you're at, and we'll put you on spotlight here so everyone can see the tour.
perfect.
So she's
All right.
been in her workroom, right? And that's your office you
Yeah,
were in?
the back. So this is actually, I'll start at the front door because I think it'll make a little bit more sense that way.
Sounds great.
Flip.
Luckily,
So
well,
right
if customers come in, we'll just stop and take care of them.
yeah. So coming in, we kind of try to have our little feature. If it's Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, we make this kind of our feature table. And then we usually keep our plant section kind of in one area with plant supplies and those kind of goodies. We've got, you know, we're featuring gardening goodies right now with Mother's Day coming up. And then this is kind of Bath and Body, men's. We have a little bit of men's cologne. We carry the Ursa Major skincare brand because that's a local company. We have Erin Flett. She's based out of Maine. Everybody loves her stuff. We love color too, so it's great. And then we started carrying a little bit of books. We do have bookstores in towns on either side of us, but nothing here in town. So we just feature kind of fun things that we're excited about at the time. And then in this back corner over here is where we have like our studio, our workshop space set up for all of our flower production. We have these big tables made on wheels, so we can move these around if we do a workshop, which is really nice. And then we have all of our flowers set up over here, so customers can kind of come around and see stuff and pick out if they want. And then our little cash wrap corner back here, we sell a lot of this gift wrap. People just love paper and craft supplies and greeting cards. We have some local vases.
Show us that the lettering on the back wall you mentioned.
Yeah, so our tagline is just a little wild. So we put that on the back wall behind the cash wrap.
I see you have a copy of the Flower Farmers on the front on the front table.
We had a book out with the pre-order, and then we were like, you know, we really need to have this out here so people notice. So it's funny how many people walk up and then they look at you and then they look at the book and then they go, oh, you're in a book. This is so cool. So yeah, it's fun. We actually got our copies yesterday too that we ordered for the shop.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I saw it right when you walked in. It's great. And it's great that you have books as well. So people are thinking about coming to get books from you anyway. That looks nice.
And this is Norton. He is a wood version of our Weimaraner. I actually there's a local artist that makes all different kinds of wooden animals, and he's kind of retiring, and a friend on Instagram sent that to me. I had no idea. And she was like, you have to get this. It's his last Weimaraner. So we raced down and we got it even at a discount.
Oh, and Diddle and Zen are the names of two dogs you have had in your past life.
Yes. Yeah. They were the first two Weimaraners that we had.
And now you have Gus and Gunny.
Yep. Gunny and Ghost.
Ghost. Yeah. And they're featured quite a lot in the book. And Robin really was smitten with their photography.
Yes, yeah, that was the picture of Gunny in the greenhouse with me in the winter was another one of Elizabeth's.
Well, when we're looking at helping people combine flower farming and retail, what kind of tips would you like to offer people? Because it's daunting to have a flower farm. It's daunting to have a flower shop, and you're doing both. And any takeaways you'd like to share with our attendees?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway would be try not to feel like you have to do it all, grow it all. I think that honestly, the best thing is to really focus heavily in the early part of your growing too, when you're setting up your farm, on the perennials, the things that aren't going to take as much work, that are just going to keep producing for you. And they can also create, a great windbreak, all those kinds of things. I wish we had actually done a little bit more of that the first year. We planted a ton of peonies, but we didn't really do as much of the woodies like mock orange and lilac and forsythia. We would have benefited. We're getting more of that now, but I wish, it would be 4 years more mature if we had done it sooner. But I think like that's the pressure a lot of times, is to feel like you need to grow everything. But I would just hone in on either the things that are more expensive to buy or that you love working with that you can't really find other places, or just, the easier crops that you can manage. Because that's mainly what you run into, is how do you, unless you have enough, help at home, how do you manage the watering on a hot day or the greenhouse temperature when you're in a retail store? So you just have to be
Right.
really strategic about those kinds of decisions, what you choose to grow.
Well, I think I cut you off earlier, and I was going to ask you, do you have a cooler in the shop?
We do.
Okay.
We have
And then
we did another cool bot here. It's a little bit smaller than the farm one, but it works great for what we need it for here.
you have one in the barn. So you basically are able to keep the cold chain going very, very quickly
Yes.
from harvest. And in the farm stand, I want you to talk a little bit before we wrap up about keeping the farm stand as a companion to the retail shop. How far apart
Yeah.
is your home farm from downtown Vergennes, and how do you keep them both going?
Yeah, so it's about 6 miles to our house from town, so not very far. It's like an 8-minute drive. But it's interesting how many people don't necessarily want to either stop in town or, it's just very convenient, the farm stand is. Our customers definitely do come to the store, our original farm stand customers, but we took a break last year from the farm stand. We opened it a little bit, but not regularly like we had in the past, because we needed that extra. We were so busy with getting this space up and running. That was the piece that we sort of sacrificed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the feedback still every day, we still get people asking, are you going to open it this year? Is it going to be back? So there's definitely demand for that space, even though it isn't really that far from town. It is kind of on a corridor too, that is one of the few routes over into New York State, because we border Lake Champlain where we're at in Vermont. So there's a bridge that goes over, and we live pretty close to that. So we get the traffic coming over from New York State, because we do have some work commuters. So it's convenient for those people too. And then because we're close to the lake, there's a community of summer house owners that, don't come to town all the time, but they love to pop in there and get those flowers. So we are bringing it back this year because of all the requests, and I'm excited too. I do love having it and love merchandising it. So my husband's been helping. We actually have been stocking it right now with tulips, just because we're swimming in tulips. And I think our plan right now is, instead of having it open every day, which is what we did in the past, we're going to have it open Friday and Saturday, which are usually our busier days, and then Sunday, Monday, because that's the days that the shop is closed in town. So if anybody has a flower emergency, they know they can still get out there and get that. So that's kind of the plan for the summer so far, is those 4 days. And then Megan, who is my part-time helper here, who has kids, she lives just up the road from me. So she's also going to be available to help fill in when
Love it.
needed. So that'll be a great way for her to get some hours in, that's flexible with her schedule.
Wow. Well, we
Yeah.
wish you a great season. I want to just
Thank you.
quickly, before we wrap up, hold up this spread from the book. We didn't show it on the PowerPoint, but Abby talked about perennials. And so this is her featured flower, gooseneck loosestrife, Lysimachia clethroides. I think I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah.
That is a perennial that you now just harvest without a lot of labor involved, right? It's just cut it every season.
It is the easiest thing. It's an invasive in some areas, so you definitely want to check that before you get certain things. It's the purple one is the one out here that is considered invasive, but it's definitely, it's like mint. You plant it and it takes off, and I did it in a raised bed still, just to be able to contain it. But yeah, it fills the bed. I mean, and it requires nothing. There's no pest that goes after it. It's pretty drought tolerant. It's a gift.
And I just have to show off one of your cute cute Weimaraners there. So
Yeah,
they're your
that's
little
good though.
buddies in the field, right? And in the
Yeah,
greenhouse.
she's my best friend.
We weren't able to use the photo of your husband on his laptop with one of the
Yeah,
dogs looking over him. I
yeah.
love that one too. So
That one is funny. Yeah, that was Ghost up on the picnic table. He was there yesterday. My husband was working outside because it was sunny, and Ghost was just lounging on the picnic table like it was his bed.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I encourage everyone to follow Abby and go visit her if you can. Are you going to do a book signing of the flower farmers at your store? I mean, you should sign your page.
Yeah, definitely. We have a pre-order up on our website right now. If you pre-order, you'll get signed copies. I have plans to turn Gunny into a stamp and have her sign it too, her paw print. So she's in the book and she is a diva. She definitely wants to sign her copies. So that's our plan right now. So
Actually, we're giving a talk next week, a book signing at a local bookstore here, and Robin is going to compile all the dogs, maybe some animals, maybe some cats too, but mostly dogs into one slide on the PowerPoint. And so, Robin, you can mention that paw stamp.
yeah.
yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Robin's theory is you can't be a flower farmer if you don't have a dog. I don't know if it's true, but it's close to true.
Yeah, pretty close.
Welcome. Julie Rémy of Fleuris Orchard and Bloom, coming to us from Victoria on Vancouver Island. Hello, Julie.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's so great to hear you, Abby, as well. And I mean, it's amazing to be in this book that is just gorgeous. You did an amazing work, both of you. It's a really beautiful book. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, I think Robin might have some comments about the photography, and maybe Julie, before we dive into talking about your business, let's talk a little bit about the pages in the book. Should I go ahead and put them up on the screen? Okay.
So Julie, while Deborah's doing that, I just want part of your story is that you used to be a photographer and you did a lot of traveling. And, I really related to your story when when you said, I just didn't want to, I just wanted to be in one place for a while because, like very similar to what people think of flower farming. They think of that photography life as very glamorous. And it's actually a lot of hard work and a lot of traveling at times. And so I think for you, that transition, if to flower farming, I think you met your husband, right? And then you decided to just enough. I'm gonna be in one place, and this was your answer to doing that. But also, if I recall, you could fill in here, but you also had a bit of an art background, so it all blended together. Did you want to mention anything about how your photo influenced your flower life or anything?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's interesting because I feel like I'm coming full circle in the sense that I started photography because I wanted to show the beauty of nature. And I was mainly photographing flowers and landscape. I was a nature photographer. Um, but then at the time, I wanted my work to be meaningful and serve a greater purpose. And I decided to work for Doctors Without Borders and yeah, help. I wanted my work to help. And so I shifted from nature photography and florals. Not that I didn't want to, but I just no longer had time to do it all. Um, and now, yeah, that kind of I the flowers always attracted me, but I never thought of becoming a grower or a designer at the time. So, and I didn't even know I was an artist per se, but I was. And yeah, and when I kind of realized like, okay, I need to settle down and not travel the world constantly. After 11 years of traveling the world constantly, it was time to settle. And even though I love my work, sometimes you have to make some hard choices in life between when you love too many things. And so I decided to settle down. So yeah, I'm sure you can hear the dogs. We have 5 here at the farm.
Yeah, well, see, that proved my point. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This
Um,
this photo is so beautiful, Julie, in your dahlia fields.
Yeah, could you say who shot that one? Because you, if I remember correctly, we worked with 3 photographers that you had sent. Two
yeah,
or three,
so
two or three.
yeah. So there's 2 photographers and some of my images as well.
That's
So
right. Well,
uh
3, yes.
yeah, so but this one is Leah Crow. She is a professional photographer. She's amazing. I absolutely adore working with her. And she was introduced to me by a friend, another friend photographer here in Victoria that I've known for many, many years, who highly recommended her to me, because I'm always looking for beautiful colors to represent flowers, and I not every photographer know how to capture that, but she is very good at it.
She's
And
beautiful. And I also love when we were chatting because I said, well, since you're a photographer, I remember when we first started chatting, I said, I think you might know a few photographers that we can get. You're like, yes, we got that covered.
yeah,
So, yes, her work is just spectacular.
yeah,
We were very fortunate.
yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and you're in your garden right now, and the photography that people are seeing on the screen is also in Julie's property. So maybe I'll just show the next slide, and then of course this is a peekaboo of your studio on the left, and then one of your inside the studio on the right, correct?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And on the left, it was a Yumi Nagumi, Nagumo, who is she was working in the garden with me, mainly volunteering to learn how to garden. Um, and she loved to take photos before starting to work. She's
Mm.
a potter. She's a she's an artist who does many things,
Mm.
and she loved beauty and just, yeah, she was very good at capturing it. So it was like, please take as many photos as you want before
Yeah,
starting to work.
absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah.
Well, what I think this shows, and you're in your garden right now, so people can see how treed it is. It is an orchard, but there's also evergreen conifers, and it's got this sort of secret garden vibe because it's so established. Your family, your husband's family have lived there for decades, right?
Yeah, well, probably about 15 years now,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah. So yeah, basically they got this property 15 years ago, more or less. And it was a completely run down, overgrown orchard, to the point that blackberries were covering the trees and you could not even see the trees. Um, so there's been a bit of work done since, and we
I would
found,
say.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
talk about coming back to flowers. You just happen to to settle down with someone whose family owned an orchard and flowers and all that. It's all the way life cycle works, you know?
Well, I had no idea I would meet a person who had this.
Of course.
I had no idea. So, but when yeah, the dream when I showed up here, I was just like, oh my gosh, like the potential for this place is incredible. Um, they were not really farming, like it was a hobby farm for them, and mainly taking care of the blueberries and the plums and the apples from the orchard and selling that at a very small farm stand, like, yeah, super tiny farm stand right by the road. Bit of a, you know, yeah, it looks more like a lemonade stand, I would say, than a building. Um, but people loved it. They were just grabbing fruits on their way because there's a park right at the end of our road. It's like a 2-minute walk from our place. And there's a lot of people just walking by with their dogs, or just to go for a walk or go for a run or whatever. There's a little mountain at the end of our road. And there's a bike path as well that kind of comes on our street, and it's a dead end. So they were just kind of, it's people passing by mainly who were buying. And I wasn't really selling any flowers there ever because I wanted to keep everything separate. But now they're retired, and we kind of decided that I am now in charge, and so I've absorbed the farm, the orchard production and everything into my business. And it will make we're yeah, we're I just we're just finishing opening next weekend. Finally, it's been such a long project to get there because
This is a sophisticated endeavor, Julie. This is stunning.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's a nice little farm stand.
Yeah, it is a nice little farm stand, and the idea is to make it a destination. And people, but there were some kind of, how do we make it work so that I can have things in there that are higher end than just a like a little cart, like just tomatoes or blueberries, or there's a bit of theft in our area. So I installed a Google doorbell, and I can lock and unlock the door from a distance, so I don't need to be there constantly. And I'm on my own, so I'm doing everything myself, the gardening, the designing, everything. So it's a little tricky to be everywhere all at once all the time. So that's something I'm going to try and see if it helps. I might need to be there, but I'm hoping not. And yeah, the payment, like self-payment, also trying not to have any cash, but having an iPad on the wall that people can pay as if they were going through a website and buying online, which is the main way that people, customers are purchasing anyway. Almost everything is pre-ordered. All my designs are pre-ordered, and that little shop will be more like an advertisement in a way for the business. And not everyone is looking for already designed florals. So, well, what I mean by already designed is everything I do is custom for a space, and the right color palette, and there's a lot of intention going into all of it. So I can't really just put these designs in the room because I don't know what people are looking for. So those are all for pre-order, but I do understand that people are also interested in just grabbing a little bundle of flowers. They don't need the full-blown design that is stunning, but maybe not in their price range. So I want to make it more accessible, and my intention is to also, there will be a huge, massive mirror to feel like the room is double the size. And I will have it will become a little center for myself to design with no restriction and make something completely wild and unusual, and change it and make it a destination to just go and check a new design every week.
I love it. So people will stop, you envision people who already are stopping by to now start seeing this elevated presentation when they wander in.
Exactly.
The path, it comes from your driveway then. It's still pretty easy for pedestrians to come in here, right?
Yeah, it's not actually completely finished just yet, but yeah, we'll have little stones on the edge, and then there will be gravel for the parking area on the other side. That part hasn't been completed yet. It's happening hopefully this week. Otherwise, it might be after we've opened, but we're trying our
Well, I love that you mentioned, or Abby mentioned that she opened her retail on for early May for Mother's Day, and that's exactly what you're gearing up for is next weekend, correct?
Yes, I was hoping to open this weekend, but it just, yeah, it just
We get
wasn't
it.
possible. Uh, yeah, forget it. Their cooler is full, but it will be in great shape for next week, so it
Uh,
will be perfect.
oh,
I
I
had a
love it.
wedding I was designing for this morning and last night, and right after our interview. So yeah,
We, yes, your plate is full. I do want to, before we wrap up, I want to just show this spread here. And so the way that the Flower Farmer book is set up with the 29 profiles of individuals or families or various, owners, their story is at the beginning of the chapter, and then the chapter ends with a 2-page spread about their signature flower. And Astilbe was the flower that you suggested we feature, especially because you are really trying to establish a colony of Astilbe in your woodland garden, and as can be seen in the left photo. Um, it's interesting that Abby talked about having perennials because Astilbe is a perennial, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, it makes such a big difference to have something that takes care of itself, that you don't need to babysit from the seed for months until you plant them, and then you have to start over again the following year. Like that's a lot of work. And one thing I love about the Astilbe is that you can use them at different stages. So it's not like, which is an even better. It's like you have multiple everything that can come like in huge quantities and look great, and you can use it dry or just foliage at some point, like at different stages in at well, or at different seasons at different stages
Yeah,
is
I
the
love it.
best. And they're just so elegant, and adding that extra texture, fresh or dried. So yeah, and the florists who are buying from me, they just like it's hard for me. I try to hold on to them a little bit so I can design with them as well. Um, because that's why I keep adding more every year, because everybody is in love with them. So
So it
yeah.
looks like you have the pink form and the white, kind of creamy white form. Is there a darker red too, isn't there?
Oh, there's so many different colors. Those are Bridal Veil Jumbo and Erica that are in that bed, but I have other beds with other varieties as
Mm,
well.
love it. I
And
love it.
yeah, they love shade, so it's perfect in an orchard. Because we grow almost every inch under the trees.
Mm.
It's done by hand. Yeah.
Well, that's why you have so many other wonderful shade perennials. But you have a sunny area too, where you're growing your dahlias and all your
The
summer annuals.
ranunculus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
wonderful
We
property.
grow more ranunculus and dahlias. Those are the two. Like butterfly ranunculus is my biggest production.
Same question for you, Julie. That and Robin, jump in if you have some observations. This idea of basing a retail option on your property is really helping to create that destination. And you do teach workshops there, and you do have people who you're not too far out of town. So how is that going to change with the new space? It's a little bit more intentional. You'll be selling higher end products like inside that charming 6-sided structure.
Yeah, it will be like a mini retail store, but with the fact that I don't know if it's the same in the US, but here you need to sell 50% of what you sell at your farm stand has to be a product of your own farm. So I have to balance that and make sure that I don't like I will have notebooks, and I will have um, gardening tools and flower presses and books and all kinds of things related to flowers and floristry, and um, so and vases, but I'm trying to bring in the local artisans and make it like an beautiful gifts for nature and flower lovers.
Mm.
I
and
mean,
it's
I'm just, of course, that's your background, right? That's where your love started. I wanted to comment that I think what you're trying is really interesting as a business model because it's kind of a combination of online shopping and yet a retail destination. And it's kind of blending the two, which I think is really fascinating. I'm curious if you had any other models for that, or if this is just something you said, okay, this is how it can fit into my life, so let's see if this works.
Yeah, well, it took me a little while to think that this could work. Like initially I was like, I'm staying away from a farm stand because it's hard to sell higher end there. So, and that's what I do is higher end. So I was like, how can I actually make this work? But yeah, so my over the last few years, my brain was like, okay, how can I make it work? And it kind of just came from seeing a few beautiful images of like there's six sides to this little building. It's not a square. And I saw a beautiful image in a book. I can't remember which one day, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like yeah, that would look so cool. And it just like little ideas here and there. And I there's a place in I think in the UK, Petalon or something,
Mm.
who they were using an iPad on their wall at on at their farm, and I was like, yeah, that can work. And now that kind of makes sense. And it's just like trying to put everything together and yeah, it's just thinking outside the box, really.
Well, it just goes to show, I mean, you have a beautiful eye from all your years as a photographer, and that skill certainly comes through in all your floral arrangements and your work.
Mm.
It was a real pleasure to be able to see your work and to see things through your eyes. So
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm going to be bringing back the photography in the garden, actually.
Oh,
Uh,
yay. That's
yeah,
great.
I
Uh,
needed a bit of a break, but I'm ready.
good.
um, Julie, also you changed you rebranded from Fleuris Studio.
Yeah,
It was
yes,
Studio in Blooms, right? Or what
yeah.
was the prior name?
Yeah, so the farm, my in-laws' farm was called Glendenning Farm. So this name no longer exists because it's under my business. It was Fleury Studio and Blooms, and I changed it to Fleury Orchard and Blooms to integrate the orchard,
Hmm.
but also because I have a studio, but it's a private studio, and everybody thought, okay, it's a studio, so you're downtown and you have a shop. And I was like, no, that's not it. I was trying to really uh, show that it's it's kind of an elevated farm, but not just a studio. So
Yeah.
that's why I
And but the
changed.
orchard part I thought also was a nod to some of the jams and fruit products that your family is going to sell in the shop. Is that correct?
Yeah, my main well, what I'm hoping to sell this starting this summer is some sorbets and popsicles because people going to the mountain, it's just perfect. And dried apples and yeah, some jams. We have quince and apples, and the plums are to die for. Um, so definitely I'll maximize what I can do with all of this. And I do have, I find Abby was very um inspiring because we have similar ideas. I'm a much smaller scale, I would say, but I do want to bring in some events in the garden, but like garden tours and have little tables and have people come and reserve a table in the garden.
Mm, I
Uh,
love it.
it's figuring out the regulations around here that is where I'm hoping we
Yes.
can make it work. Yeah.
Deborah, I
You,
think we have to do a trip.
yes, we're going to with those of us who are in Seattle consider going to Vancouver Island like going to Britain or something. So we're only 3 hours away or so. We're going to come up and do something with you, Julie, in the summer. We can't help ourselves. I've been there before, but I know Robin's dying to get
Yeah,
there.
no, I definitely want to come. We'll
Well,
hit the
yeah.
I
road.
love that.
I think
Yeah.
one thing I've heard from both of you is sometimes these things don't happen suddenly. Of course, Abby, your shop came to you suddenly, but you thought about it for years. You kind of
Mhm.
designed what you wanted as you built your business. And I think similarly, Julie's, a lot of it is timing. Like you've been planning this business and you've run it, but now you're just taking it to the next level, which is really inspiring. And I thought hopefully encouraging for people who are listening. I thank you both. Robin, thanks you both. We're delighted that your
Yeah.
stories are in the Flower Farmers. We have one other flower farmer in the book who's in attendance today, and I just want to give out a shout to Misty Vanderweel of All
Yeah.
Dahlia'd Up,
Yeah.
our Alaska flower farmer. Hi, Misty. Thanks for joining us today. And I know you have on-farm retail, so I'm sure a lot of this resonated with you.
Yes, it was awesome. Very awesome. Always gives me ideas.
Okay, good. Well, we'll have a separate side chat with all of our flower farmers to share notes. Thank you all for coming today. Ladies, you've been fabulous and super generous with your knowledge and your time. And we wish you a beautiful season.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care,
Yes.
everybody.